Alright, you guys, welcome back to another video. Today I kind of want to talk a little bit about ship comparisons. I know a lot of new people are coming to the game, and I see a lot of this on Reddit where people kind of ask what ship would be good to fit in this role, and what ships are good compared to other ships. So what I want to talk about today is kind of how to compare ships, or how to pick the best ship for you, because Star Citizen isn't like a typical game. There there's there is like a meta, but it all depends on what you want to do. Okay, because ships are essentially gameplay focused. So basically you have a career path in the game, and you need a specific ship to play that career path. So really what you want to do in the game is dictated by the ships you have or fly. So picking the right ship is super important, and comparing it to other ships is also super important. So these are actually, so what we're going to talk about today is actually third-party tools, or these are basically other people created websites that compare ships to each other so you can pick the ship that's right for you. Okay, and so I'm kind of going to go over them here in this video. So the first site we're going to look at today is called Referral. Okay, and this is a DPS calculator, and I'm gonna kind of explain a little bit how to use this, because the first time you use this website you might be thinking to yourself, well, this is the same gun, why does it have more DPS on one ship over another ship? And that's why it's important to have a DPS calculator, because especially with energy weapons, the gun isn't what makes the gun is not the only factor in calculating its DPS. You also have to take into account the power plant. Okay, so DPS calculator gives you the ability to change components, and it will update live. So as you can see here, as I scroll over these components, the values down below are changing. Okay, and you can see in real time what picking up this component will do to the overall stats of your ship. And so this is also a great tool to use, not just to compare ships, but also to pick what loadout you want to have. All ships come with standard components, but you can upgrade those components in game by buying better, more expensive ones that improve your ship. Okay, so you can change the guns, and I'll talk about that here too. You can change the weapons, you can change the turret mounts, you can change the missiles, the missile racks, the shields, power plant, coolers, quantum drive, and of course you also have skins. You can't really do anything with the thrusters right now, but that they take that into account too. And it also tells you where you can get these items and what price. So you can see down here, when I was up here in the shields category and I clicked on this, it gave me a drop down list of all of the shields that fit this ship. So you don't have, so there's no guesswork there. All of the shields on this list will fit in this ship. And so as I go up here and I pick the full stop military grade C, and you don't have to worry too much about that right now, but it will show you here all the stats and where you can buy it and for how much. So you can get this component at Dumpers Depot on Port Alsa for 30,400 AUEC. Okay, and so the same thing with weapons. You get the drop down and you can pick which weapon you want, and it will show you the DPS here, and it will also show you your ammo. So when you're picking a weapon, all of the values that it shows you here are what you want to take into consideration. Okay, so you have your max burst DPS, your ammo, alpha damage, your fire rate, your fire speed, the range, the power to EM, and the IR. Okay, so how detectable is this weapon? So you get a lot of really good information from this site, and a lot of veteran players really love this website. It's called Urkel.games, and you have the /live/calculator. But they also have more stuff. They have the data on ships and vehicles, and mining lasers. So if you want to do mining, you have the mining components here as well. Okay, but most people use Urkel for the DPS calculator. And so how you compare ships using Urkel is you have different slots up here. Okay, so right now it has the Scorpius, but we can change that. Go to select the vehicle, and then you get another drop down menu, and it shows you all the manufacturers. Okay, so this will only show you ships that are in game right now. So I know a lot of people might want to compare a concept ship like the C1 to the Cutlass Black, but you can't actually do that. Okay, you go to Crusader, you'll only see the ships that are currently in game, but you can compare ships that are similar to it. So for this example, we're gonna compare daily flyers, or like daily drivers, ships that you might want to use on a daily basis. And some ships that I think are pretty good at this would be the Nomad. Okay, so we're gonna put that in slot 1. Then another ship that might be good at that is the MSR. Okay, the Avenger is a pretty good daily flyer, but we're gonna actually swap that out, and we're gonna put in the Freelancer. And the last one, we are going to go Drake, and we're gonna put in Cutlass Black. Okay, so you have the stock configuration. When you choose those ships, it will display what these ships come with as stock. Okay, so from stock, you have a maximum sustained DPS of 1733 on the Cutlass Black. You have a maximum sustained DPS of 985 on the Freelancer. You have a maximum sustained DPS of 492 on the MSR. And then you have a maximum sustained DPS of 495 on the Nomad. Okay, but what you want to take into account here is that the Mercury Star Runner has 2 turrets with a maximum sustained DPS of 1444. Okay, so if you have people in the turret, your maximum sustained DPS is more than a Nomad. But if you're just flying by yourself, the Nomad actually has more maximum sustained DPS. Okay, so that's definitely something you want to look at, but it's something that comes in handy because here on the freelance you can see it also has a turret. And so that maximum sustained DPS is 615. Okay, the Cutlass Black has a turret, 2 size 3s, and you can see the turret right here underneath the main weapons. So that has a maximum sustained DPS of 722. So the MSR is kind of the best so the MSR is kind of the best 2 to 3 man ship because it has so much DPS on the turrets. Now if you're doing, it's just you and one other person, the Cutlass Black is probably a better choice. Well, actually not really. Let me take a look at that for a second. Yeah, 722. So the DPS on the MSR and the Cutlass Black's turret are the same. The MSR just has 2 of them. So if it's just you and one other friend, the Cutlass Black is a good decision because you have more DPS. On the MSR, you only have 492 DPS. So if it's just you and one other person, the Cutlass Black does more DPS. If it's you and 2 other people, the MSR does more DPS. Okay, and if it's just you by yourself, you could actually just get away with a Nomad. Okay, but things change when we start talking about shields. Okay, because the Nomad shield is only 4,500. The Mercury Star Runner shield is 18,000. So you have way more shields on the MSR. So if it's just you alone, maybe you might want to sacrifice 3 DPS for way more shields. So that's kind of an example of how you can use Urkel to compare ships. You just want to make sure you pay attention to the actual item, the actual components, their values here, where you can buy them, and the overall stats that change when you do change the components and the items. Now, it also has a power priority simulator on DPS, which you can see right up here. So let's say I change one of these weapons. On the nose turret, it's got size 3s. Let's say I put a Mantis Gatling on there. You can see that the pilot's DPS increases substantially because this weapon has a lot more DPS than the stock laser repeaters. This is a ballistic Gatling. But the downside of ballistic Gatling is that it has limited ammo, which you can see right here. It only has 530 rounds. So once you go through 530 shots, you have no more guns. But you have 1600 DPS. So that might be a trade-off you want to look at. And you can see how that changes right here. Now, because this is a ballistic weapon, if you use the power priority simulator and you go max weapons, your DPS doesn't increase at all. Okay, because it's a ballistic weapon. But if you go over here and you go to a laser weapon, let's use this light strike. Standard configuration along 600 DPS. You go 100% weapons, goes up to 821 DPS. So DPS calculator will show you the full simulation. So it will simulate what these components will do. Essentially just go here and pick whatever you want. Change each weapon, missiles. So that's essentially Urkel and DPS calculator. You also get your burst DPS stats as well. So this is a great tool. If you want to go and check it out, I'll leave a link to it in the description of the video. And the next website that I want to show you guys is called Fleet Yards. Okay, so Fleet Yards is a good way to compare base stats as well. So you want to go to ships, then you want to click on compare over here. I'll go full screen, and you can just add ships. So this does include concept ships. So Oracle and DPS calculator does not take into account concept ships, only flyable ships in game. Fleet Yards does. So we want to compare the C1 to the Cutlass, to the Freelancer, to the MSR, to the Nomad. Okay, so here you see the 3D model, and it will have the stats here. So you can see the length, the width, the height, the cargo, the price of the pledge, the minimum crew, maximum crew, and a lot of the speed stats. Now, because the C1s are concepts, you don't have the same speed stats that the Cutlass and Freelancer and MSR have, but you do have the stated components. So if you were using Oracle and DPS calculator, this will give you an idea of what kind of components you can use. So it will show you that the C1 has size 2 components. If you go back to DPS calculator, you will see here all of the size 2 components. So all these size 2 components you have here on DPS calculator, they will be applicable to the C1 because the C1 is capable of using size 2 components. So even though we can't see what you know, the speeds are, we can see what the components are. Or we don't know what the stock components are going to come with the ship, but we know what components we could put in there if we wanted to upgrade them. And so you could use this to kind of compare against all the ships. Now, if you were comparing these ships right now, the C1 is pretty comparable to the Cutlass Black and the Nomad. The Nomad is on lighter ends, much smaller, and the MSR is on the high end. $80, $260. Okay, and then you have the C1, the Cutlass Black, and the Freelancer are kind of all in the same range, 100, 110 bucks. Again, you have 48 SU, 46 SU, 66 SU, 36, 38, 46 for the length, transport, multi-crew. So they are pretty similar, and this is a good way that you can just look at the stats and compare the ships to one another. And you can also kind of visualize it because these sizes are actually relative to each other. So if I were to go in here and put in Javelin, you can see all the other ships shrink because the size is comparable to the Javelin. So this is how big an MSR is to a Javelin. Okay, so that's That's another thing that you can do that's kind of cool about fleet yards. So again, this website is called fleetyards.net, and I will put a link to it in the description below. And the last website I want to show you guys is actually subliminal.gg. So Subliminal is a YouTube content creator, okay, and he has a website here where he has his recommended loadouts. And I like this website because it's a good tool that you can use if you want a out of the box progression route for your ship. So you just bought your full ship, okay, and you want to know what you have to upgrade to make it the best it can be. This is a great website to go to, so you can look up Subliminal's recommended loadouts for each ship, based on the patch too. Okay, so because the ships changes and they get rebalanced, so sometimes he will update these, and you'll see when each ship was modified. Okay, so personally, I think that's a lot of work that he does on this website, picking loadouts for these ships. So go show him some love. Again, I will leave the link to this website in the description below, but just as an example, let's go here and let's look up a recommended loadout for the Gladius. Okay, so basically how this website works is you have the build premise here, and so this component and webhouse loadout is based on being good at VHRT bounty missions, or very high risk target. VHRT stands for very high risk target bounties. So these are medium to high reputation level bounty missions. So yes, you can set up your ship to do this and do low risk bounty missions, but this is what you're going to want to have if you're going to do very high risk bounty missions in a Gladius. And so there are two kinds of builds here he has for you: the orange and the yellow, laser cannon, laser repeater, and you have the pros and cons. You've got your components: do not upgrade the cooler, shields, quantum, and his website actually has DPS calculator built in, so you have access to the power priority simulator, so you can see what DPS changes happens when you go full guns or full shields or full engines. And that's what these icons represent. This is full weapons, full shields, full thrusters. And then again, you have stats here. So it DPS calculator is fully integrated in his website, and then of course he's got his video down here kind of talking you through his build. Okay, so this is a pretty good website, and I use it when I want to upgrade my ships. Again, you can always just go to DPS calculator and pick the weapons yourself based on how much DPS you want. But if you want to turn off your brain and just buy components that someone else has already figured out, okay, these components and weapons are good for doing this type of content, this is a great website to go to, because he's already done all of that work for you. You just have to go here and you need to look up what the weapon is, go buy that, and then you can start enjoying the game. It removes a lot of the guesswork, and for a new player, in my opinion, it's a good resource. Okay, so yeah, that's the last one I wanted to show you guys. These are just some tools that I've used in the past that can be very helpful. So yeah, that's the end of that video. If you guys liked it, hit like. If you guys want to see more, hit subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Salute.